What's up, everyone? Here we are in another Crafting Dead recap, and here we have the Season 5 recap. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not gonna say much because the Season 4 recap was 40 plus minutes, and I already know that this one's probably gonna be as long as the last one. I don't know yet. This is like me before doing everything I need to do, so I'm not gonna say much. This is a Season 5 recap, but yeah, let's get into the video. The season starts with Mr. P walking into a room with Jack in the corner. Mr. P then wakes Jack up to ask him where Tar is. Jack says he's not going to tell him a thing, and Mr. P says he's not in the space to be acting smart. Jack then tells him that he might be dead after the scar he gave him, and Mr. P gets impatient and pulls out his sword. The scene ends with Mr. P saying there's no reason to keep him alive. It cuts back to JoJo and the rest wondering where Mr. P is. Michael says they have no time to waste and they need to make sure no one from Jack's group escapes. Keen suggests they split up, and JoJo says him and Keen can go together because his trust hasn't been fully earned. After that, they both head into the theater to find any remaining members of Jack's group. Mr. P is still standing in front of Jack while Jack tells Mr. P about the favor he was doing for him. Mr. P asks about it, and Jack says he was trying to make Tar better, but Mr. P says he's fine just the way he is. Mr. P assumes Tar is hurt or maybe even dead, and when he gets ready to kill Jack, Tar runs into the room. Mr. P gets surprised and notices that Tar is hurt. Jack interrupts the reunion, and Tar says he's going to be sent to hell with his family. It goes back to JoJo and Keen, and they continue to search the theater when Keen tells JoJo that Jack is the only person they need to worry about. JoJo brings up Crackle and says he needs to die too, and Keen tells JoJo that Crackle was killed by Jack recently. They stop talking and continue to search all of the rooms in the building. When they don't find anything, they decide to regroup with Lucas and Michael and head outside. Tar and Mr. P are still standing in front of Jack, but before they kill him, Jack starts yelling about how the zombies will forever roam the earth. Before he can add on to it, Tar tells Mr. P to just kill him already, and Mr. P says they should find the most excruciating way to kill him. While standing there, Mr. P notices zombies waiting outside, and they go outside to get rid of them so they can't get in. While doing so, Jack takes that time to slip away. Mr. P and Tar return inside to notice that Jack is gone, and they move into the next room to look for him. Tar says he couldn't have gone far, and Mr. P stops him and hesitates for a while, and then he tells Tar thinking that he got bit. Lucas and Michael are waiting next to the tree when Lucas gets angry that they let Dragon into the building alone. Michael says it was the best option and they need to trust him. Lucas gets angry when they hear a voice calling them. When they look up, they see Dragon standing on the roof, saying that he made it. Lucas asks Michael how is Dragon going to get down, and Michael tells him about a ladder in the back of the building. Lucas tells Dragon to look for the ladder while him and Michael go to meet him at the bottom. JoJo and Keen walk back to the spot they were all waiting, and they don't see Lucas or Michael there. JoJo starts getting suspicious and pulls out a bow on Keen and starts to call him out. Keen tries to talk, but JoJo interrupts by saying he was trying to split the group up so they can kill them one by one. Keen says it's not like that at all, and JoJo doesn't believe him by asking where everyone else is and why aren't they in the places they were supposed to be. Keen says he doesn't know the answer to any of his questions, and JoJo replies with, "I guess I have to kill you." Tar gets shocked and asks Mr. P if he's serious and that he can't die on him like that. He also brings up how Mr. P promised they would survive together after their mom died. Tar doesn't know what to do but blame JoJo for listening to him. Tar then asks to see the bite, and Mr. P shows it to him. Mr. P then tells Tar he doesn't want to become one of them. Tar then suggests that he cuts his arm off, and Mr. P says he can't live without an arm, and it would be even worse since Mr. P already lost his eye a long time ago. After a while, Tar asks what should they do, and before the scene ends, Mr. P says that Tar will need to kill him. It cuts back to JoJo standing in front of Keen with the bow when Lucas hurries over and stops him from shooting. When JoJo looks over, he sees Michael and Dragon with him, so he lowers the bow. Michael explains why they were gone, and JoJo tells him how he thought it was all a setup. Lucas says they all need to find Tar now since they are all together. Keen says he has an idea where Tar could possibly be, and they all follow him. Tar and Mr. P continue their conversation, and Mr. P asks if Tar wants what's best for him, and Tar agrees but says he doesn't want to kill his own brother. Mr. P continues to ask Tar to do it because he doesn't want to turn and he wants Tar to live on for him. Tar suggests they can find a way to avoid him turning, or even worse, they can wait and pursue Jack so they can end him together. Mr. P says they don't have time, and he doesn't want to risk him turning while they are chasing him. Tar eventually comes to the terms that Mr. P won't be coming with him to find Jack, so he finally gives in and tells Mr. P he will kill him, but in return he will find Jack and kill him to avenge him. Everyone else runs into the building that Tar and Mr. P was sitting inside, and Lucas asks if they seen Jack, and Tar told him that he got away. Michael notices that Tar is hurt and offers to help him, and Tar declines by saying only him and Mr. P will go after him. Jojo says it would be better if they all group up together to get him, and Tar says they both want to handle Jack alone. Mr. P tries to speak up, and Tar shuts him down before he can say anything. Lucas tells the rest of the group that they can possibly find Crackle, and Keen tells them about his fate. Jojo says they can check buildings nearby to get anyone they missed, and after that, they can look for Tar and Mr. P. Tar says they won't take long, so they shouldn't go looking for them. Jojo tells Mr. P and Tar where to meet up with them after they finish things with Jack, and they all leave. It then cuts to Jack limping and leaking blood when he gets to a building and gets inside. Once inside, he slowly walks to a corner of the building and he sits down to get some rest. It goes back to Mr. P and Tar, and Mr. P tells Tar he knows what has to be done and hands him the crossbow he has always used throughout the course of the show. Tar tells Mr. P that he will live on for him and he will find Jack. After he kills Jack, he tells Mr. P he will find whoever started this apocalypse and kill that person as well. Mr. P says the chances of him finding that person will be impossible, and Tar says the bunker he found a long time ago wasn't there for nothing. Mr. P realizes that Tar is very serious about finding that person, so he tells him to have Jojo help him since he was the other person to be in the bunker with him. Tar says he can do it alone, and Mr. P says his best chance is to actually do what he wants to do, and he needs to do it with people. Tar finally gives in and promises Mr. P he will go with someone. After a while, he walks some distance away from Mr. P and turns around saying goodbye. Mr. P tells Tar to stay strong, and the camera slowly pans through the door when it goes silent, and the only thing you can hear is a crossbow being shot and Mr. P getting hit by the arrow. This episode starts with Jojo and everyone else walking back to the beach house. When they get inside, Jojo says he has a feeling Tar and Mr. P wouldn't be able to get Jack. Michael suggests they go back into the city to find them, and Jojo says he's going to go alone because he still doesn't trust Michael or Keen yet. Dragon offers to go and says they need to hurry. Before leaving, Jojo trusts Lucas who is holding down the place, and when everyone is back, they can discuss what's going to happen to Michael and Keen. Jojo leaves with Dragon quickly following behind. After they leave, Keen asks Lucas if they trust them at all, and Michael follows up by saying he doesn't feel welcome and how he also risks his life to get into the group. Keen agrees, and Michael continues by saying they could have been better off staying with Jack. Lucas gets a little angry and he tells them both how Jack was crazy and siding by him makes them the same. Keen tries to calm down Michael, and Michael won't let up. Lucas brings up a good point by telling them the only reason he is alive now is because of Jojo. Keen agrees with Lucas, and Lucas tells Michael if he's going to continue complaining, then he can leave. Jojo and Dragon are on their way to find Mr. P and Tar when Dragon asks Jojo if he is okay. Jojo says they should have went with them because they are both hurt and they still aren't back yet. He also doesn't want to take the risk because Jack could have an ace up his sleeve. Jojo then tries to piece everything together by saying Keen couldn't save Tar because there were always people around him, but when they first raided the base there was no one around. Then he adds on to that by saying Tar could possibly be working with Jack, but it just may be a crazy assumption. It returns to the aftermath of Mr. P's death with Tar walking out of the house. Tar promises he's going to find Jack and looks down on the ground to find a blood trail which he starts to follow. Keen and Michael are standing in front of each other when Keen speaks. Keen asks if he's okay because he was acting a little different earlier. Michael says he doesn't really know and asks Keen if they would have been safer in Jack's group, and Keen quickly responds by asking him if he's crazy. Keen then tells him he killed many innocent people in front of him, so if he ever says that thing again, he will be against him in every discussion about Jack. Jojo and Dragon walk back up to the house and see the blood trail. Dragon says they should follow the blood trail instead of going inside because it could be Tar's blood, so they decide to follow it. Tar continues following the trail and sees a group of zombies trying to break into a building. After getting the zombies to move, Tar runs inside the building to see Jack sitting under the stairs. Jack wakes up to see Tar and asks where did his brother go and if he got a bigger scar than what he had on his eye. Tar shoots Jack and tells him to shut up. After screaming, Jack tells Tar that he's right, and Tar tells Jack he isn't going to kill him because that's exactly what he wants. Tar then tells him he's going to let something worse happen to him. Jack then laughs and says he thought he failed trying to convert Tar. Tar gets disgusted by him and says he's crazy. Jack then tells him that they are the same and they think alike. They are basically the same person now. Tar then says he is nothing like him at all, and Jack tries to reason with him by saying they could restart, and Tar quickly denies it. Before letting him get to the door, Jack says his group will hunt Tar down no matter what, and Tar says everyone is gone and what he's about to do is for Mr. P. Tar then opens the door and quickly hides somewhere. Once the door is open, the zombies that were sitting outside run into the room to get to Jack. Jack tries to run away and curses Tar for doing what he's doing. Tar runs out while the zombies continue to rip into Jack. Jojo and Dragon walk up to the building when they see Tar walk around from the corner. Jojo sees him and asks where Mr. P is. Tar then tells him not to enter the building he just came out of, and he confirms their question of Mr. P being gone. Jojo and Dragon get sad, and Tar tells him that Jack is no longer a problem either. He then proceeds to ask Jojo to speak to him about something, and also says Dragon can't hear it. Jojo says they should go back to drop Dragon off, and Tar tells him to go home alone. Jojo doesn't agree, but Dragon says it's okay and starts to head back. Jojo then turns to Tar and tells him they should find a safer place to speak. Tar tells Jojo to follow him because he needs his help with something, and they set off. A while later, Dragon gets home to see Lucas waiting outside. Lucas asks where everyone else is at, and the only thing Dragon does is tell him that Mr. P died. Shocked with the news, Lucas asks where Jojo and Tar are, and Dragon says they are talking about something. Lucas doesn't believe it at first and asks if he's serious and not joking around, and Dragon tells him he isn't joking. Lucas then tells Dragon he's going to go inside to tell the others about the news and to give Dragon the space he needs because he can tell he's pretty upset. Jojo and Tar walk back to the house, and Tar opens the door to show Mr. P's dead body inside. Tar then looks at Jojo and says he needs help making a grave. Jojo says the best thing he can do for him now is to help him make the grave. And once they make it, Tar thanks Jojo for helping him, and Jojo says he had to help since they've been through so much. Tar then tells him about how he was bit and how he needed to shoot him. Jojo apologizes for Tar having to kill his own brother, and Tar tells him how he wants to find whoever started the apocalypse and kill them. Jojo says that's probably going to be impossible because he's confident more than one person started it all. Tar says it isn't going to stop him because he will end them all, no matter what. Jojo shows his concern by saying it may be impossible and that would also mean he will leave the group. Tar says he has to do this, and Jojo says they can stay in the city and rebuild with everyone else, so why leave when he can be safe? Tar says no one can ever fully be safe, and Jojo tries his hardest to convince Tar to stay. Tar doesn't give in. It says they can't be fully safe from other people, and maybe the people who created this mess have a cure. Jojo says going out could get himself or maybe even the group killed, and they might not even be able to find who started this whole thing. Tar goes silent and tells Jojo if he isn't going with them, then he's going alone. This episode starts with Jojo and Tar still at Mr. P's grave. Jojo tells Tar they can stay in the city and be safe together. Tar looks at Jojo and says he'd been promised safety, but his brother is dead because of him. Jojo tries to calm Tar down, and Tar continues adding on to it. Before he can, Jojo asks exactly how did Mr. P get bit, and Tar says he's lucky he doesn't kill Jojo and walk away. Lucas walks in and tells Michael and Keen about Mr. P's death. They both apologize and they offer to give Lucas some space. Keen tells Lucas he felt the same way when he lost his family. Michael asks about Dragon, and Lucas tells him to give him some space because he doesn't want Dragon to see him like this. It then cuts to Jojo chasing after Tar, and Jojo stops him. He then says he doesn't want to lose anyone else, and he also owes it to Mr. P to protect Tar. Tar says Jojo doesn't owe him anything, nor does he need to be protected. Jojo says if he goes alone, then he could possibly die, and Tar says it's all about taking risks. Jojo tells Tar he's scared, and Tar says he didn't have to deal with Jack alone or do anything he had to do, so why is he scared out of all people? Jojo stops him by saying he isn't there to argue and he's there to help him. He also needs a lead since Mr. P is gone, so the only one who can help him is Jojo. Tar says if he can't get any information he needs, then he will leave the city. Jojo says if that's what he wants, then he can't do anything and turns around. Once home, he walks past Dragon and gets inside. He then tells everyone they need to do something while Dragon asks about Tar. Jojo tells everyone about Mr. P being dead, and Tara wants him to chase the people who started this all. Michael asks about Jack, and Jojo says Tara was the one to do it. Dragon interrupts by saying they need to stop Tara from leaving alone, and Michael even agrees by saying he has an impossible task. Jojo says he couldn't convince him to stay, and for once he doesn't know what to do, nor do they have any connections outside the city. Michael says Jack had connections, and Keen adds on to that by telling everyone about a radio he had. Michael tells everyone where the radio is, and it isn't the best place either since it's the hospital, the building they just let a horde into. Lucas brings up his gear, and Keen says it could be inside Jack's house. Jojo proposes an idea by having them all split up into groups. One tries to find Tara, and the rest clear out the hospital. Lucas, Michael, and Keen were tasked to clear out the hospital, and Jojo and Dragon will go looking for Tara. While walking on the road, Jojo and Dragon see zombies, and while killing them, Dragon asks Jojo if he really thinks Tara is still in the city. Jojo says he didn't have much, so he would still be around looking for loot before he leaves. Jojo says they should check the grave of Mr. P to see if he's anywhere near because that was Tara's last location. The other group walks into Jack's house while Lucas runs upstairs to find his loot. Michael then tells Keen the killing they have been doing doesn't sit right with them because some of the people so far have been innocent. Keen agrees with them, and Michael even compares them to be on the same level of Jack for killing innocents. Keen says they really only killed them because they had to. Lucas runs down telling him he found his gear and puts his riot gear on, saying he should enter the hospital first. Jojo and Dragon walk to the grave to see Tara sitting there mourning his brother. Tara then says they can't leave him alone, and Jojo says they have a lead. Tara questions Jojo and says at first he didn't have a lead, but now he magically does. Jojo tells Tara about the radio and how there's a huge horde inside the hospital, so they need to clear it out before they can use the radio. Tara tells him if the radio doesn't work, then he's going to leave and no one will stop him. Jojo asks if it does work, then what will be next, and Tara says he will still leave to find the people he's looking for. He then tells them if they decide to follow him, then they can, but if they choose to stay in the city, then he'll just go alone. Jojo says he will follow if they get a lead, and Dragon questions Jojo about them rebuilding. Jojo tells them about the stuff they found in the bunker that he hasn't told anyone yet, but he's going to save it for later when the whole group is there. Lucas tells Michael and Keen he's going to run into the hospital to have most of the zombies follow him, and they can just clean up any extras. Keen shows his concern about him possibly being bit, and Lucas tells him he has done something like this before, so he'll be okay. Lucas then runs into the building saying no biggie. Jojo and the rest catch up to them and see Michael and Keen standing outside. Jojo asks if the hospital is clear out, and Keen said Lucas told them to wait. Jojo gets impatient and says they need to get inside now and rushes inside. Once inside, they kill the zombies on the bottom floor, and then they head up to the second to see Lucas launch a zombie across the hallway and kill him. They continue to kill more zombies on the second floor, and Jojo tells Lucas that he will go with Tara and Michael to find the radio while the rest make sure every room is empty. They proceed onto the third floor when they enter the room with the radio. Michael goes behind to see if he can get the radio working. Tara tries to rush him, and Jojo tells him to be patient because he has unanswered questions himself. Tara then says Jojo should tell the group about the bunker and what he's hiding from them. Michael hears this and says what secret when the radio quickly turns on. They hear a voice from the other side calling for Jack. They all go silent, and Jojo tells both of them that he may know the voice on the other end. Jojo gets closer to the radio and hears a person speak again. After hearing the voice once more, Jojo speaks, asking if the person on the other side is Killer. This episode starts with Jojo, Tara, and Michael in the radio room. Jojo then speaks out and asks for Killer. Killer then questions how Jojo knows his name, and he also asks where Jack is currently at. Michael then tells Killer about Jack being dead. Jojo interrupts and asks Killer if he remembers him, and adds onto that by telling him about the island they crashed on. Killer then tells him that he remembers Jojo. Jojo asks how Killer got off of the island, and Killer said Mr. P left him a boat, and then asked if Mr. P is still with him. Jojo went quiet for a while before telling him about Mr. P being gone. Killer asked about the other guy who was with them, and Tara interrupts asking how he knows Jack. Killer tells them they will talk to each other and give each other info. Jojo then asks Killer where he currently is, and he tells him he's in DC as of right now. But when he first got off that island, he made it to New York to find his family, but couldn't find them at all, so he went to DC because he thought it would be safer. Michael asks if he is in DC and Killer says he is, but right now they aren't exactly a big group or that protected because they just suffered from an attack. Tar then asks if Killer knows anything about how this virus started, and Killer says he's been trying to find out the same thing too. Tar then asks what he knows, and Killer says it's too much, so it would be better if they met up to discuss that topic. Killer then proceeds to tell him they aren't very far away, so they can make it. Tar says he will be there, but he can't guarantee everyone else will come. Killer then tells him to think about it before he tells him he is needed elsewhere and heads off. Michael says what's going to happen, and Jojo says he doesn't know yet, but this is something they should discuss with the group and ask Tar to be there since he's one of them. Tar says he will stick for that, and they head downstairs. They meet up with everyone, and Jojo tells them about the community in DC and how Tar wants to go to DC. Jojo then tells the group he wants to follow him. Lucas says, wait, I thought we were going to rebuild and make a community there. Jojo then says they would be safer in DC than here since there are more people. Keen then asks if someone doesn't want to go, then what will happen, and Jojo says he won't force anyone to go. Lucas then asks how are they going to get there, and also how far away is DC from here. Keen speaks up and says he knows exactly where to go because he used to travel from the city to DC with his family from time to time. Tar says he should go with them so they can find DC, and Keen yells out saying he was born in the city. Tar asks Keen to point him in the right direction then, and even Lucas jumps in saying he should go with the group to DC. Jojo stops everyone and says before they discuss it any further, who will be going to DC. Lucas and Dragon both say they will follow Jojo wherever they go. Jojo looks at Michael and he says DC will have more safety than anything here. Jojo asks Keen to please go with him, and Keen finally gives in, but before they leave he wants to go back to his home first. Tar gets impatient and says he can't wait any longer, and Lucas tells Tar he's gonna have to wait since Keen is the only one who can lead them there. Keen then walks out and makes it to his childhood home. Keen slowly walks through the building, checking every room, wondering if he will be safe in a new community. Before leaving, he says he will really miss his house, even the city, and leaves the house for his last time ever. Jojo walks up on Michael and apologizes for being a dick, and he also tells him he has his trust same with Keen. Michael then hopes for a new beginning, and Jojo agrees. Before Jojo walks away, Michael asks about what Tar was talking about before the radio turned on, and Jojo said it's something he found at the start of the apocalypse, but he wants to save it for everyone else to hear. Keen then returns to everyone else and asks if they are all ready to leave. Jojo makes sure everyone is ready, and they begin to follow Keen out of the city. While walking, Michael asks about the thing they talked about earlier. Everyone questions what Michael is talking about, and Jojo tells them about the bunker he found a long time ago and what was in it. Keen asks if he was involved in the making of the bunker, and he said he wasn't a part of anything, but he wants to learn more about and possibly even create a cure. Dragon suggests Michael could possibly help since he's a doctor. Tar says even if they could make one, it wouldn't change much. Lucas says if they can possibly make a cure, then what do they do after? Jojo says they try to live their best life in the community and continue walking. It then cuts to a few days later when they finally make it. Jojo congratulates Keen, and they start to swim across the river to make it to the city. Lucas then tells the group how he helped Jojo learn how to swim a long time ago, and they continue going. Once they make it to the city, Jojo says they should take it slow before they go running around the city. They then find a random building to stay in, and they check it out to see if everything is all clear. Jojo says they should use this building as a base until they find the community and also a resting spot. Tar says he wants to go look for the community, and Lucas agrees to go with them. Jojo then wishes them luck and to be back around nighttime, and they both shortly head out after. While walking on the road, they see a huge wall with barbed wire on the top with something peeking over the edge. They start screaming at each other, and the guy up top asks who they are. Tar remembers the voice and tells Killer that they are from the radio. Killer notices that and runs outside to meet up with them. Killer wonders where the rest of the group is, and Lucas says they are somewhere else currently. He then looks at the wall and asks if this is the community, and Killer says it is, but there aren't many people there anymore. Tar then asks Killer what he knows, and Killer says it would be better if they didn't talk about that topic so close to the walls, and Lucas suggests they go back to the rest so they can all hear. Once they get back, Jojo sees Killer and is shocked about it actually being him. Killer says he isn't here for a reunion, which then leads Lucas into asking where everyone else is. Jojo turns around and tells Dragon to get the other two. When he leaves, Killer tells him he doesn't have much time, so he starts telling the other three about what he knows. He then tells him that they are currently working on a cure and they think they are pretty close. Lucas tells Killer they have a doctor with them and he'll most likely be able to help. Tar says if he knows anyone who could have started the virus. Killer says he doesn't, but he knows that the virus is inside of everyone, and if you ever get bit, it takes a couple of days for you to turn. This episode starts with Lucas being shocked with what Killer said. Killer repeats himself by saying the virus is inside of everyone, and Tar gets slightly angry and asks how long it takes to turn. Killer then says it takes a couple of days, and Tar screams out saying he did it for no reason, which in this case he means he killed his own brother for no reason. Dragon and the others return, and Michael introduces himself to Killer. Killer then tells him if he's a doctor and also about the cure they're working on. Tar interrupts by asking if the virus doesn't fully infect someone on the first day. Killer says he doesn't entirely know, but he's heard this info from someone else. Killer then says he doesn't have much time to talk, since they will notice he's gone, and they start to head back to his community. When they get there, Killer tells everyone not to tell anyone inside the walls about the stuff he knows about the virus. They then get up to a door in the wall, and Killer says that he's back and for them to let him back in. He also tells them that he brought the group he told them about here. They get let into the community, and this very bright guy stands next to them questioning where Killer went. Killer tells the guy that he went to get the group and bring them here, and the guy just tells him not to leave his post next time. Lucas then looks around and says the community looks kinda small. The guy says it's only like that because they just suffered an attack and they also lost the White House from it. The guy then sees Michael and asks if he's a doctor, which Michael tells him he is, and the guy says that he can help them. Michael agrees to help, and the guy tells Killer to bring him to the other station. They both head out, and then the guy looks at Dragon and asks if he's a child. Lucas tells him that he is, and the guy says if he is a child then he won't be able to be a scavenger. The guy then tells everyone that the adults have to scavenge around, so Dragon will be safe in here. Keen speaks out and questions their safety. The guy then says they need to scavenge so they can keep the community alive. He then continues by saying Killer will be back to show them around, and they should rest up because tomorrow he plans to send them out on a mission. Once he walks away, Tar gets angry and says he's not going to work for him. Jojo shushes him and says it's the safest option and they can also potentially get more info. He then begs Tar to calm down and Tar says he can't because he needs to get an answer. Keen jumps in and gets frustrated at everyone arguing. Tar doesn't listen and brings up how he had to shoot his brother, and shortly after he learns that he could have possibly lived a couple more days at least. They all try to quiet Tar down, and Lucas brings up that they could be kicked out if someone hears him flipping out. Jojo then says they don't even have a cure to begin with, so it would only prolong Mr. P's death. Tar gets more angry and says Mr. P wouldn't have died if he didn't listen to Jojo and walks away. Lucas asks if Jojo is alright and Jojo says he is. Jojo then proceeds to say Tar needs to watch the next thing he says to him. Killer brings Michael away from the group and makes sure if he is confident with going through with helping them. Michael says he's confident and Killer says if he is, then he's going to need to go to the other settlement to work on the cure there. Michael gets shocked and questions if he'll be able to see his people. Killer says once he leaves then, he won't really be able to see them as much anymore. Killer then decides to give Michael more time to think about it, and if he still wants to go then he should say his goodbyes. Killer then quickly runs back to the group and apologizes for taking a while. He looks around and doesn't see Tar and asks where he went. Lucas tells him he got tired of waiting, and Killer then leads them to their new dorms and shows them where they will be sleeping. Keen says this isn't what he was thinking, and Killer says it's the best they could do because they haven't been there that long. Killer then tells the rest of the group about Michael and that he's going to be sent to their second settlement. He then says they have a different settlement just in case they suffer another attack. Keen asks if they will be able to see Michael, and Killer says no, they won't see him all that much. Jojo says that's a good thing because he wants to work on that cure himself. Killer then says he's going to give Michael time before they leave just in case anyone wants to talk to him. Killer walks away, and Keen says he's going to go look for Michael and walks away as well. Keen finds Michael trying to walk into the dorms before Keen calls out for him. When he turns around, he asks if he's really going to go through with this other settlement thing. And Michael says he will because they need someone like him, and it will also be a new beginning for both of them. Keen says good luck and tries to walk away, and before he can, Michael stops him and says if anyone is looking for him, then he will be in the dorms. Killer then walks into a building to talk to someone when the bright mysterious guy from earlier walks up. Killer then says hey, what's up Blue, which reveals his name finally. Blue then asks if Killer is going to bring the guy to the other settlement, and Killer says he's giving him a little time to say his goodbyes, and Blue says make sure he gets him there before the sun goes down. Killer then tells him he's going to get him now so he doesn't have to wait, and leaves the building. Jojo meets up with Michael and starts to whisper to him about trying to find any info on who started the virus. Michael then says the guy from earlier seems pretty nice, and Jojo pushes on and says he could be faking it. Michael agrees and says he will try and find something. Jojo thanks him and says he will be doing that for him and Tar because they want to get more info. Killer then rushes into the building and says it's time for them to go. Before running out, Jojo says good luck and they both run out. It cuts to Blue standing in front of someone talking to them when Tar runs up and says he has something to ask him. They end up walking away, and Tar assumes since they are in DC the virus had originated there, and then he continues to ask if he was part of the creation of the virus. Blue says that's a very odd question to ask and doesn't directly give an answer either. Tar then walks away, and it cuts to the rest of the group inside the dorms. Dragon tells everyone he could probably be happy there for once. Jojo agrees and says it's been pretty rough since Mr. P died. Dragon also says he felt the same way since Solon died, and then Lucas says it was pretty bad when Nathan died as well. Kina asks about the people since he never heard of Nathan and Zolan before, and quickly apologizes for them dying, which he follows up by telling them about his whole family being dead. Jojo says they all need to live on for the people who previously died, and they need to live on because they didn't get a choice to. Lucas then says the stuff with Jack really took a toll on him, and Keen says it took a toll on every single person there. Jojo says they will all get better soon because it's safe and heavily protected. Everyone else agrees and they all head to bed. In the morning, Lucas wakes up Jojo and tells him about the guy wanting to talk to everyone. They all head downstairs and Blue tells them about the mission he has for them. They all think it's a supply run, and Blue tells them it isn't anything like that. Then he reveals he wants all of them to take back the White House from the Horde that currently occupies it. Lucas screams out, "What?" and everyone else is shocked. Jojo says they have no idea where to go, and Blue tells him he's going to send one of his men with them. He then looks at Dragon and says he won't be able to go because it would be too dangerous. Keen then questions this request by confirming the plan of them taking out every zombie inside. Blue confirms it and says he knows it's a lot to ask, but they need to earn their place in the community. Jojo says it will basically be suicide, and Blue says there will be 5 of them, so he's sure they will all be safe. Blue turns around and says he's going to go get his guy. He walks up to the guy and asks if he's ready. The new guy asks if the group can really do it, and Blue says he hopes so because the last squad that went died trying to get the White House back. The new guy says they shouldn't throw away any other lives, and Blue says he needs him to kill the guy in the military outfit. He questions why, and Blue suggests that Tar may possibly know about his past, which makes the new guy agree with him almost immediately. Then Blue tells him not to kill him in an obvious way because they will need the other 3. This episode starts with everyone standing at the gate waiting for Blue's guy. The guy walks up and Tar says something cheeky under his breath. Dragon speaks up to avoid the guy hearing what Tar said and says he won't be going with them since he's a child, obviously. Jojo then asks if he's going to be the one leading them to the White House, and he replies with yes, and also says it would be better for them to head out now so they can get it done. Before they go, Dragon tells everyone to stay safe, and Keen says they will. They all head out the door, leaving Dragon behind. Dragon returns to the dorms, and Blue walks in to ask Dragon if he's okay. Dragon stands up and says he needs to become a scavenger. Blue says he doesn't really know about that, and Dragon says he needs to be able to go with his friends. Blue says he isn't able to because he is too young for it, and they already left as well, so it is way too late. He even adds to it by saying they will be safe as well, and Dragon gets in his face and says he can't guarantee that. Blue says he knows, but he needs to trust his friends, and turns around to walk out. While walking, Tar gets mad at them moving slow and says he doesn't have all day. The guy turns around and says they are only here to prove themselves, so if he doesn't want to do that, then he can leave. Tar walks up to him and tells him to repeat himself because his mouth was full of shit. Before an argument starts, Jojo steps in and everyone else backs him up. They continue a little bit and Jojo finally gets tired of it and tells everyone to shut the fuck up and to continue moving. It then cuts to a flashback of the previous day of Killer bringing Michael to the other settlement. Before letting him in, Killer asks Michael to try and learn more about the virus while he's inside. Michael says he can try, and Killer just tells him to not get caught because he honestly doesn't fully trust Blue. They walk up on the door, and Killer tells someone to let Michael in, which they do, and Michael goes inside. It goes back to present time, where the group is walking, and the new guy asks if anyone needs a break. Keen then says he will be good because they aren't too far away from the White House. The guy questions Keen on how he knows that, and Keen says he went to DC a lot when he was younger. Jojo then asks the guy how they lost the White House in the first place. The guy says they were attacked by a horde of zombies, and he even said there were people on the horde as well. Everyone gets confused and questions him about the people. He says those people walk with the zombies, dressed up like them, and that's how they got into the White House. Everyone is still confused on if they are real, and the guy says they are real people wearing zombie skin, and when they get close they stab people. Jojo asks if they are anywhere close, and the guy says they got a good amount of distance left. Keen suggests they watch out for those people just in case, and they continue on. It goes to Dragon sitting in the dorms getting frustrated of being left alone and questions what Lucas would do. He then says he can't sit and wait and plans to sneak out to help them. On their way, the main group sees the White House from a distance before they run up. The guy suggests they split up into teams. Tar says why would they do that if people are somehow walking in the horde? The guy says he would doubt they would stay in a building filled with zombies, and also they complain about taking too long, so splitting up may be the quickest option. Jojo says they have an odd number, so how would teams go? And the guy says he would take Tar with him because of his military experience. Lucas and Jojo agree. Keen then says their team should take the right wing while the other two get the left. The guy tells them to meet at the top floor when they are done, and they all run up to the White House. Tar and the guy enter in their own way, and they start to kill every zombie on their side very quickly. Once they kill everything in the main room, the guy tells Tar to clear out every room and leave no zombies. The other three get inside, and Jojo asks them if they think Tar will get along with the other guy. Lucas is hopeful, and Keen kinda worries about splitting up. Jojo then opens the door to zombies, and they make quick work of them. They continue down a hallway and find some rooms with zombies inside. They kill some more and continue searching all around while killing as much as they can. They clear out more and more rooms. Once they believe they are done, they check the rooms once more and decide to meet up back with the rest. While clearing out the other side, the guy and Tar get to the final room. The guy tells Tar to go in first, and Tar doesn't trust it at all. Tar quickly turns around and shoots the guy behind him. He pulls out his crossbow and points it at his head. The guy wonders why he was shot, and Tar tells him he knew he was going to try and kill him. Then Tar says he wants to know everything he knows about Blue. The guy says he isn't going to do that, and he also says he won't survive any of this, and he also should have thought about what he said to Blue earlier. Tar questions it, and the guy says he will find out, but when he does, it will be too late. Tar says he's stupid for even thinking he would be able to kill him, and shoots him in his face, killing him instantly. The finale starts with Jojo and the rest running over to the other side. They find Tar when Jojo tells them that they ran over because they heard a scream. They then turn the corner to see the guy from the community dead. Shocked with the discovery, Lucas asks what happened, and Tar tells him how he was trying to kill him. They all start to regret leaving them alone together while Jojo checks the body. Jojo walks up to Tar and asks what happened. Tar tells him about what he said about Blue, which they assume is the leader of the community. Jojo asks him another question, and he asks about what was said to Blue. Tar tells him about the question he previously asked him, and Jojo assumes Blue was involved in the creation of the virus. Keen asks what's the next plan, and Jojo says they should finish clearing the White House out, but also they should do it for Blue just in case Blue wasn't behind the plan to kill Tar. Tar gets angry and says the evidence is right in front of their faces. Lucas backs Jojo up and says they don't even know for sure what's going on, and Jojo says they don't even know if Blue is the leader of the community because he never really introduced himself. Keen also backs them up by saying if Blue is someone completely different, then they still need to clear the building out. Tar says once they get back, he's going to question him for more answers. Jojo then changes the topic by leading everyone to the higher floors. Killer makes it back to the community when Blue lets him back in. Killer tells him about Michael safely making it to the other settlement. Blue tells Killer about the guy named Caden bringing everyone to the White House while Dragon stays back. Killer is confused because the last group that was sent had 9 people and this new one only has 5. Blue says the first group most likely made a huge dent in the horde that was left, so he's confident 5 people can take them down. Killer thinks he sent them on a suicide mission, and Blue shows no remorse by saying if they don't survive, then he himself will go with a group to clear them out. Killer tells Blue he has no faith or trust in them apparently, and Blue says they need the White House back no matter what, and he will leave Killer in charge while he's gone. Jojo and the group continue to the next floor while killing zombies on the way. They continue to kill zombies in every room while Tar has a close call. They work together by clearing out a balcony and any other remaining rooms. They go up to the 3rd floor and final floor when they see more zombies. They do the same by killing them all. They check the chests inside and notice no loot at all. Tar questions if they were ever in the White House to begin with. If there isn't anything, then he continues to say he doesn't trust the leader at all. Jojo says if he is bad, then what can they do about Dragon and Michael? Tar says they can save him if they ever have to, but then they remember they have no idea where Michael is at. Keen ends up telling them they should wait to see his true colors. Lucas suggests the guy he killed was probably lying so he could scare Tar. Jojo then says they have a new problem to deal with as well because their guide is currently dead. Keen says he could probably find a way back, and Tar says they could get lost. Jojo says they need to try it because it's the only thing they really got. Killer is sitting at the wall when Dragon walks up to him and asks if his friends are back. Killer says they aren't and he asks if he's okay. Dragon says he is, but he's worried about them, and Killer says he gets him and he also knows what he's trying to do. Dragon gets confused and the Killer tells him he knows he's trying to leave and also says it's not a good idea at all. He then tells them to go back to the dorms because he doesn't want someone else to die. Jojo and the rest continue walking when Keen asks if they need a little break. Tara says they don't need to and Lucas says they kinda do because the whole day has been constant walking. Jojo agrees and he also wants to use the time to think about the situation. Tara says they don't have time to think and Jojo says Blue doesn't know about anything that has happened yet, so they have so much time to process everything and come up with a plan. Tara is still impatient and Keen says they don't even know if Blue is the bright colored guy. Lucas says they need to see who he really is, and Tar gets frustrated on how no one is trusting him. Lucas gets a little louder and says any maniac can say anything they want, but it doesn't mean anything in the long run. Tar tries to argue when Jojo stops it and says they can't split up from a person who is already dead. With no one feeling safe, standing in the street, they continue walking. Dragon walks up on a random wall of the community, saying he has to get out when he breaks a hole in the wall and escapes. Killer is still sitting on the wall when Blue walks up and says he's going to leave with two others. Before letting him go, Killer tells Blue about Dragon may try to leave, and Blue tells him to watch him closely. Blue then walks away. Jojo and the group get to a road with a huge horde standing in the road. They hide around a corner and Keen says they need to get past them. Jojo says it looks like they are walking the way they need to go and they need to hurry back because if they wait then the horde will get close enough to hear the people inside and surround the place, so they won't have any way of getting back in. Lucas then tells him he has an idea and he tells everyone about him still having his riot gear. Jojo says it's not smart to run straight into a horde, especially with people walking in hordes now. Lucas gets confident and says they won't be able to get him, and Jojo says if they get one good stab then it's over. Keen says he doesn't believe the story at all because they didn't see anyone like that at the White House. Lucas says they really don't have any time to waste and he volunteers to distract them so the other three can make it back so they can warn everyone about the horde. Lucas also says he will make it back whenever he can and he puts on his armor and starts running to the horde. Killer decides to leave his post to go check on Dragon when he finds no one there. He thinks he successfully escaped so he runs downstairs. It cuts to Blue walking up to the wall with the two other people and gets angry at Killer being gone, but then he thinks about him probably watching Dragon. He then tells the other two to follow him since they don't have much time. Keen continues walking when Jojo questions if they are close or not because he doesn't remember any of the buildings they are next to. Keen doesn't know exactly where they are when Tar gets mad at him being lost. Keen says he needs to look around to see where they currently are at. Tar gets mad and says Lucas didn't have to do what he did because now they are lost and it's a waste of time. Jojo stops him and tells Keen to please hurry up because they barely have any time left. It cuts to Dragon walking down the road when he sees the huge horde. Frightened by the horde, he runs inside a building and looks out a window. He then thinks about the hole he left and it says he needs to fix it if the horde is heading to the community. Dragon then runs out of the building and says he needs to fix it so people don't die. Blue makes it to the third floor and makes an assumption of the group heading back, but that isn't on his mind at all. He looks around the floor and finds a radio that he really wanted to find. He turns it on and starts calling out for Popular City to see if he can get any response at all. With a long time of silence, a random person finally answers and says he's from Alexandria. Blue responds and says he was trying to find survivors anywhere else. The guy confirms people are still alive and Blue stops for a moment. He then says he may remember his voice and the guy says that is pretty weird. Blue brushes it off and says they are currently working on a cure and if they could send anyone to help then he would appreciate it. The guy confirms Blue's location of him being in DC and he says he will send a group over to help. Blue then gets off the radio and he tells one of his men about the guy sounding familiar before walking off and the season ending right there. So that is The Crafting Dead Season 5 in its entirety. I'm not going to talk too long because this video is almost 50 minutes and I don't want it to reach 50 minutes. I'm going to normally do what I do. I'm going to show the episodes, their like how long the episode was and then the release date. Also, one more recap is gonna be coming out, and that's for season 6. That's probably gonna be longer than 50 minutes because season 6 is just a long season. I think season 6 has the longest episode, with the finale being like 30 plus minutes or something. I think it's like 33 minutes. That's the longest episode, so that's a lot of content. I'm sorry that these recaps are long, but I rather prefer doing the recaps than people watching the episodes. Like I said, production is not the best. But yeah, that's all I have to say. I'll see you guys in the next recap, and peace.